Manchester United are one of the richest football clubs on earth. They generate more money than almost every club in world football. Their shirts sell globally, their matches dominate television audiences, their social media numbers are enormous. Sponsors still line up to work with them. And yet, since Sir Alex Ferguson retired in 2013, Manchester United have become one of the most dysfunctional elite clubs in Europe. Managers have failed, players have regressed, transfer strategies have collapsed, and despite spending over £1 billion, they still look off the pace of Europe's best teams. So how can a club be so successful economically while being such a mess on the pitch? Because Manchester United stopped behaving like a football club and became something else entirely. Why Manchester United is an economic superpower but a football mess. To understand modern Manchester United, you first have to understand what Sir Alex Ferguson actually built. Because Ferguson didn't just build a successful football team, he built a global entertainment machine. In the 1990s and 2000s, the Premier League exploded internationally, and no English club benefited more than Manchester United. They had trophies, superstar players, drama, rivalries, iconic moments. They were football's version of a Hollywood franchise. David Beckham became more than a footballer. He became a global celebrity.
United shirts were suddenly everywhere. India, China, the African continent, America.
By the late 2000s, Manchester United weren't just competing with football clubs anymore. They were competing with global brands, Nike, Coca-Cola, Disney. And economically, it worked brilliantly. But here's the important part. Most football clubs are dependent on winning. Manchester United evolved beyond that, and that changes everything. When Ferguson retired in 2013, most people assumed United would decline slightly. Nobody expected what actually happened. Since Ferguson left, multiple managers, hundreds of millions wasted, chaotic recruitment, poor football structure, constant instability. And yet, the money barely stopped. That's the strange thing about Manchester United. Even when the football declined, the business stayed powerful. In fact, at times, revenues continued rising. Think about how unusual that is. If a restaurant serves bad food for 10 years, customers leave. If a movie franchise releases bad films repeatedly, people lose interest. But football clubs are different. Fans don't switch teams. Manchester United inherited something incredibly valuable: generational loyalty. That loyalty became economically resilient, and the club's owners understood that. In 2005, the Glazer family completed one of the most controversial takeovers in football history. Not because they bought Manchester United, but because of how they bought them. The Glazers used a leveraged buyout, which basically means they borrowed money to buy the club, then made Manchester United responsible for paying much of that debt back. Think of it like this. Imagine buying a shop with a bank loan, but instead of paying the loan back from your own pocket, you use the money from the shop's tills to make the repayments. The shop didn't choose the debt, but once you own it, the debt gets paid from the money the shop earns. That is why the takeover was so controversial. Manchester United were profitable. Manchester United were powerful. But after the takeover, a club that had been debt-free was suddenly carrying a huge debt. That's essentially what happened. And over the years, hundreds of millions have gone towards interest payments, refinancing, dividends. Money that could have gone into infrastructure, recruitment, long-term planning. Now, to be fair, the Glazers didn't destroy United commercially. Commercially, they were actually very effective. United became exceptional at monetization. Regional noodle partners, tyre sponsors, financial services deals, global partnerships. Manchester United monetized their brand better than almost anyone. But there was a growing problem. The football side and the business side started drifting apart. The biggest clubs in modern football aren't just rich, they're smart. Manchester City built elite football operations. Liverpool built recruitment systems based on analytics and structure. Brighton identify undervalued talent better than clubs with 10 times their budget. Meanwhile, Manchester United often looked reactive, emotional, chaotic. Different managers wanted different players. Recruitment strategies constantly changed. Expensive signings became commercial events. And this is where economics becomes really interesting, because Manchester United discovered something dangerous. Big names generate attention, even when they don't solve football problems. So the incentives became distorted. Football success and commercial success stopped being perfectly aligned, and once that happens, you can spend huge amounts of money badly, which is exactly what United did. Manchester United have spent astonishing amounts of money since Ferguson retired, and yet somehow they still feel unfinished. That's because spending money is not the same as building well. Look at clubs like Brighton or Brentford. They think in systems. United often thought in moments. Big unveiling, big social media buzz, big headlines. But elite football clubs need continuity, structure, planning, identity. Without that, even huge spending becomes inefficient. And economically, inefficiency is deadly. Because football has changed. The Premier League is no longer just rich clubs versus poor clubs. It's now smart clubs versus badly run clubs. And Manchester United, despite all their wealth, have often looked badly run. Here's the truly remarkable part. Despite everything, Manchester United are still gigantic. Why? Because brands built over decades don't disappear quickly, especially in football. Millions of fans inherited a love for Manchester United from parents and grandparents. The club still has history, nostalgia, global recognition, emotional power. And emotionally powerful brands are economically valuable. That's why sponsors still care. Even during poor seasons, United remain one of the most watched clubs in world football. Hate watching still counts as watching. Criticism still creates engagement. Manchester United became too culturally important to collapse quickly. But there's a limit to how long history can carry you. The real danger for Manchester United isn't one bad season, it's gradual irrelevance. Because football moves fast. New generations grow up watching Manchester City, Real Madrid, Arsenal, Liverpool, not Ferguson's United. And eventually, commercial power follows football success. Not immediately, but slowly. That's why modern football economics is so fascinating. Winning creates relevance. Relevance creates audiences. Audiences create money. Manchester United have been able to bypass that first step, winning, for years, because their historical brand was so powerful. But no club is permanently immune, not even Manchester United. Manchester United are one of the greatest football institutions ever created. Economically, they changed English football forever. But modern football punishes confusion. And for over a decade, Manchester United have looked confused about recruitment, about identity, about ownership, about what kind of club they actually want to be. They are still rich, still famous, still enormous, but increasingly they are living off accumulated power rather than current excellence. And that's what makes Manchester United such a fascinating modern football story, because they prove something uncomfortable. In football, money alone is not enough. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more deep dives into the economics, business and power structures behind football. Next time, how Barcelona broke themselves.